More stupid.
This is my brand, I've come to realize.
I know, yeah.
If it sounds stupid and it's backed by science, it's something Mel Robbins wants to talk about. So the high five habit is for all of us, but particularly if you're somebody that feels stuck or you're easily tripped up or brought down by jealousy or guilt or procrastination or beating yourself up or comparison. And, honestly, if you're breathing, that's you. Who isn't?
Yeah.
This is an idea that once I unpack it for you, you're going to literally go, holy shit.
In a good way?
Yes.
All right, lay it on me.
So we all know that we need to love ourselves, right? How do you do that?
I don't know. What is the action that you take?
Yeah. We all know we're supposed to accept ourselves. We all know we're supposed to have self-esteem and self-worth and self-validation and self-confidence. How do you build it? And, the other thing is that we also are looking outside ourselves for confirmation, validation, affirmation of those things. And so how do you relocate the source of your self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-validation within yourself so that you're in control of it? Big idea, right? So let me tell you the story about how I discovered this, because it was not like how do I have another high five moment, I get fired from my talk show, and I am essentially fired from my dream job. I then start having speech after speech after speech after speech cancel. Then Houghton Mifflin cancels my contract for my next book and asks for me to return money that I've long spent. And
why'd they cancel it? Just
because
because of pandemic related?
They laid off. There are two reasons. First of all, they were laying off 45% of the staff, but more importantly, let me take responsibility. I was a year late on delivering a manuscript. Okay, let's be honest. I fucked up yet again.
Yeah.
I ghosted my publisher and they fired my ass, as they should.
The long play to ghost your publisher, right?
I'm going to spend your money and then ghost you. But I found myself again in this familiar place, having sort of echoes back to a decade ago of, oh my God, are we in financial freefall again? Is this ride over? Mm-hmm. Kids come home.
You did 100 speeches in a year prior to that.
Yep.
Or prior to the show.
Yep.
And then took a pay cut to do the show.
Yep. And look, I've been saving money. I've been very smart about money now that I've made it. We've paid back all of our debt, something we're both really, really proud of. And at the same time, when the shit hits the fan in your life, your old things will get triggered. And what got triggered for me is I'm about to lose it all again.
Right.
Meanwhile, just like everybody else on the planet, your kids come home and it's both a blessing and a horror show to have your children in a state of distress as the world is in distress. And I just started to feel overwhelmed. And there was this one morning where I walked into the bathroom. And I was standing in my underwear, brushing my teeth in front of the mirror. And I looked up at the mirror and my first thought was, ugh. I noticed that my jowls were starting to look like saddlebags on a pack horse at the Grand Canyon. And I had these crazy lines by my eyes, and my neck was really kind of saggy, and one boob was hanging lower than the other, and my gray hair was coming in. And as soon as I started kind of critiquing my thoughts or my looks and appearance, then my mind, Rich, started going, fuck, I didn't get that email back to that person. And I got that presentation I need to do. And my God, did that speech just cancel again? What the fuck am I going to do? And I look down and the dog needs to be walked. And then I think, I got a Zoom call in 9 minutes. I got to get my shit together. And before I knew it, my whole mood was low. I felt overwhelmed. I had taken myself down mentally. I just wanted somebody to walk in and be like, Mel, it's going to be okay. You got this, girl. It's lift your head up. You can handle this. I don't know what came over me, Rich. This is pathetic. But standing there in my underwear in front of my bathroom sink, I raised my hand and high-fived my reflection. And I cracked a smile because it's so fucking corny. I even thought of that guy, Stuart Smiley from the SNL skits. Remember that? I'm nice, I'm kind, people like me. Went on with my day. That was it.
Snapped a photo, though.
No, not that one.
Oh, not that one. Not the first time.
And then I kept doing it. I did it probably for a week or two. And here's the weird thing about it. I started when I woke up after doing this high five your own reflection in the mirror thing. I actually started to feel like I was looking forward to it. And here's why. You know, I've spent a lifetime, just like you, standing in front of the mirror. And what I realize now is that when I'm standing in front of a mirror, I'm either critiquing or picking myself apart, or I'm ignoring myself. And when you start to high five your own reflection, it starts to build a partnership within you, with yourself. When you walk into the bathroom and you see your reflection and you've been greeting it, it's like seeing another person. It's the strangest thing. You start to realize how often you fucking ignore or destroy yourself when you see yourself or beat yourself up. And here's what's also crazy. You have a lifetime, and this is where the science gets wacky, and I'm going to hit you with so much science because this stuff is so cool. You have a lifetime positive association with high-fiving other people.
Sure.
As a runner, as a racer, you have gotten so many high fives, Rich. What does a high five say to you when somebody gives you one?
You feel seen, you feel appreciated, you feel energized by it, and it's an exchange of energy. It's not the same, and you talk about this in the book, it's not the same as like self-talk because there's a participation involved in it. There's like a communion aspect to it.
Yeah. And, you know, if you think about it, you're so good at celebrating, seeing, and cheering for other people in your life. You plan birthday parties, you reach out to people when you're worried about them, you help out colleagues, you cheer for your favorite sports teams, you high-five people like Rich as they're running races past you, you buy people's merchandise, you do all kinds of stuff for other people, but nobody's taught you how to do it for yourself. In fact, the reason why it feels fucking weird to high-five your own reflection is because you've been taught to do the opposite.
Why is the default to just beat ourselves down like that? I mean, it is crazy. We would never treat anyone else in our lives, especially the people we care about, the way that we treat ourselves in terms of the self-talk or the narrative or the critique or the, you know, the kind of harshness with which we, you know, judge our appearances, our behavior, the way we, you know, think back on things that we said the other day and just are horrified by our own selves. And it's, I don't know if it's everybody, but it's most people.
Except for Buddhists. I mean, I think that they're like if you're a big practicing Buddhist, that's a monk.
Right.
That's like just
why can't the default be the good things though?
Well,
why is it wired that way? You know why?
There's cognitive bias. There's a bias towards negativity. And it's a protection mechanism that's a default from evolution, that if you remember the bad shit, you're more likely to spot it when it happens in the future.
So you can avoid it.
And here's where I think it begins. I believe my theory is that it begins two places. Either you, or that could be both actually, you either learned the pattern of beating yourself up because you had parents or caregivers that were hard on themselves or hard on you. And so as a child, you absorbed that pattern and you now repeat it and you don't even realize it. So those moments you're like, oh my God, I sound just like my dad or my mom. That is an example of a pattern that you've absorbed. So particularly for women, we've watched our mothers be critical about their appearance. We've watched our mothers ignore and criticize themselves in the mirror. And so we learn that from our caregivers. So that's one place. The second place that we learn it is when the drive in your life becomes fitting in. Fitting into groups in elementary, middle, high school, college, your neighborhood. That feels safe when you fit in. When you feel like you don't belong, you immediately go into a protection mechanism. And I believe a lot of the negative self-talk is a sorting hat type of mentality that we do to ourselves going, I can't be with those people. I can't be with those people. It's safe to be with those people. And you start to see yourself and the world around you as places where you belong and places where you don't. And part of the criticism, as fucked up as it sounds, that we engage in all the time is don't be too big, don't be too loud, Don't show yourself too much. Don't have blue hair. Don't do this. Other people won't like you. It starts as a way to protect yourself from being rejected. But the truth is, you develop a habit of fucking rejecting yourself.
Right. Meanwhile, you're further divorcing yourself from who you truly are because you're not giving yourself permission to be yourself. That gets sublimated in favor of fitting in and, accommodating other people and acclimating your behavior around what will be approved of.
Yes. So for me, I have clearly a lifetime of beating myself up and tearing myself down and regretting decisions that I made. And in the middle of stumbling through life, instead of being like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, being like, you're really fucked up now, Mel. How does that help?
Right.
How does criticizing and being hard on yourself help? What's interesting is I even think of somebody like David Goggins, right? Everybody looks at him, can't hurt me, tough, mentally tough. His single biggest mindset trick is the cookie jar. Mm-hmm. It's reaching into your mind to find a positive thing that's worth fighting through the bullshit for. It still comes down to encouragement and support and something positive. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the coolest thing about the high five is this. First of all, I am demanding that you try it, especially if you think it's stupid as hell. I want you to stand in front of the mirror. Number one, because research out of Harvard says taking a moment of reflection with yourself in the morning and setting an intention changes your productivity, it changes your neurochemistry, it changes how you show up for the day, it changes everything. That's number one. Number two, you have a lifetime of looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing what you hate. I want to change that. When you raise your hand and high five your own reflection, because you have been raising your hand and high fiving other people for your entire life, it is already programmed into your subconscious. All of that shit that's positive. I believe in you. We got this. Come on, shake it off. Well, let's get going. Here we go. I see you. I hear you. I celebrate you. All that stuff you've been doing for other people, when you raise that hand, the subconscious part of your brain kicks in and it overrides all of the negative stuff you think. You cannot stand in front of that mirror, Rich, and go, God, I look fat, and high five yourself. It's impossible. Your brain can't do it.
Right.
You also can't think about work emails. You also can't think about what's stressing you out. And here's the thing that I also love about it. So this is a field of study called neurobics. You're marrying physical movement with a change in thought. The other thing that
It's like neurology aerobics.
It is.
Basically.
It's exactly what it is.
I found that part of the book fascinating. Yeah. I mean, I think, look, you're taking this very simple action that we all associate with positive things that's backed up by, the neurochemistry with this mirror work, which has a tradition in psychology in the field of like cultivating self-love. It's not like the idea of looking in the mirror and doing the Stuart Smalley thing. Like there's science and research behind this to cultivate appreciation for the self.
Yes. And so there's even more here. So the other stuff that's super cool about this is that, we've all bought into this lie that somehow beating yourself up and tough love and being hard on yourself is motivating. Wrong. All the research shows that it is demotivating. If you're somebody that's stuck, if you're somebody that has regrets, if you're somebody that is tired of where you are, if you feel like, you just, why can't I change? Beating yourself up is making it worse. You have to learn how to cheer for yourself where you are. Because if you're not, you will never find the motivation to change. So they did this study with kids where they broke kids into 3 different groups, okay? And they gave the kids very challenging problems. And they wanted to know what was going to be the thing that researchers could do to motivate and inspire kids to work through a challenging problem, and what is going to be the most effective thing that we could do to give somebody that boost that you need to really face something that's hard. So group number 1 got the old fixed mindset praise, where it's like, hey, you're super smart, Rich. Hey, Rich, you're really good looking in those glasses, and I bet they help you make you focus on this problem. Keep going, buddy. The second group got the fixed mindset praise, which is, hey, Rich, you're really, really working hard. Rich, that perseverance is amazing. Keep going. The third group, they got a simple high five. No words, just a high five. The group with the simple high five outperformed the other 2 group and then some.
That's
Why?
so crazy.
Why? I'll tell you why. A high five is fulfilling your fundamental emotional needs. It's not about the problem. When you high five somebody, including yourself, you are affirming that somebody exists. You are saying, I see you, and you're celebrating with them. You know how those things go viral all year long of teachers standing outside their classroom doing individual handshakes with kids? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Every one of those kids is being seen as an individual and celebrated.
There's also that study of the NBA teams, right?
Yes.
Where they basically looked at how many high fives all the teams were doling out.
Fist bumps, yeah, touching.
And the teams that were giving out the most high fives were the highest performing teams.
Yes, and the
that's crazy.
The teams that had the least amount of contact like that, of fist bumps and high fives and back taps, performed the worst. Why? Because you're building trust with whomever you're high fiving. You see, when you stand in front of the mirror and instead of going, God, my jowls look like saddlebags and I'm fucked today because my to-do list is so long and, and I shouldn't have had that, that sets your mind and your day on a certain course. Yeah. When you walk into the bathroom and you habit stack this simple high five along with brushing your teeth, you are starting your day by fulfilling your most important needs. You see yourself, you affirm yourself, you celebrate yourself. And for those of you that feel stuck, part of your problem is you are withholding that shit from yourself until you get to the number of the scale, until you get that job, until you do the thing you're supposed to do. And what you are doing is backwards. You need support, celebration, and acknowledgement now in order to hit that number on the scale. You see, most of us believe we're not worthy of celebration until we achieve something. And I'm here to tell you, if you start celebrating, supporting yourself as you are every single day, it will become a part of who you are, which empowers and equips you to face the shitty things, and more importantly, empowers and equips you to do the things that scare you that you need to do. Mm-hmm. I literally have struggled with anxiety my entire life. And anxiety, for this conversation, the way I define it is the habit of worrying spiraled out of control. You know, you may say that you are a worrier. That's not true. You have a habit of worrying. A habit is a pattern of behavior or thinking that you repeat without realizing it. So anxiety happens when that pattern of worrying about things spirals out of control, and now it starts to marry and manifest itself with physical sensations too. That's all that it is. I know that I say that's all that it is. Me personally, I struggled with anxiety, I think my entire life. It became quite acute when I was in my late teens and early 20s. I became medicated in the middle of law school. I took Zoloft for 2 decades. When our first daughter was born, who is now 17, the postpartum depression and the cascading panic was so terrible that not only was I medicated and couldn't breastfeed, but I couldn't be left alone with her.
Wow.
So when I say you can cure yourself of anxiety, I don't say that lightly. 4 years ago, after I had been using the 5-second rule to change my behavior, how I spoke to my husband, how I negotiate in business meetings, how I conduct sales, the kind of parent that I am, my health habits, my eating habits, curbing the drinking, I thought, I wonder if I can use this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing to get control of my thought patterns. Not my behavior patterns, my thought patterns. Yes, you can. Wow. So we're gonna build this conversation, because I want to start with something we can all relate to, and that is, how do you stop worrying, and how do you stop listening to self-doubt? This is how you're going to do it. So all day long, you're going to have moments where your thoughts drift, and I use that word on purpose. Because for me, there is a physical sensation when you start to use the 5-second rule and you start to wake up, not only on time in the morning, but you wake up to your life and the opportunities in your life. Your thoughts drift. Like, you'll just be hanging out with your friends and then suddenly you're like, I'm not sure that person likes me anymore. I haven't heard from my kids lately. I wonder if they're dead, or, as a check, like, you just start worrying about stuff. Why? Because it's a habit. Because when you're not paying attention, your brain shifts from you being a decision maker and paying attention to you just kind of spinning things on autopilot. And one of your habits is worrying. The second you wake up and you notice, holy cow, I'm talking some negative garbage to myself right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've just shifted the part of the brain that you're using. You've shifted from the basal ganglia, which is where your habit loops are spinning, and you've awakened your prefrontal cortex. You've also interrupted that pattern. Now what you're going to do, because your mind is actually ready to receive a different thought because of the counting, now you can put in an anchor thought. Like if you have a mantra, if you've got a vision about the way that your business is going to turn out in 5 years, if you just have a thought that makes you really happy and proud, insert that. Now, why does this work? It works because of the counting. And I'm not kidding. We know, based on research, that positive thinking alone, not effective. In some instances, trying to force yourself to think positive can actually make the worries worse. Why? Well, the reason why is because it's really hard to just change the channel. What we have to do first is basically interrupt it and turn off the TV and then turn it back on with the prefrontal cortex awakened. So the counting is essential. And so you can start using this today. You catch yourself talking garbage to yourself, because we all know if I were to put a speaker on your head and broadcast it, you'd be sitting here in the audience, you'd be in an insane asylum, because the crap that you say to yourself is insane. And the problem is we listen to it. You'll be in a sales meeting and you'll be undermining yourself. They're not going to buy. Oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. You're not even present. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch it back. Get back to that vision that you have about toasting your success, or this customer being really happy, or you being proud of yourself. Whatever that vision may be, you can control your thoughts. And this is not just us talking about it. This is a tool that you can use. So let's take it a step further. So worrying, if you let it go unchecked, what will happen is you will get used to worrying. You will get used to living in a state where you're slightly agitated all the time. Let me talk a little bit about agitation. So what we know based on research is that physically, in your body, so physiologically, being excited is the exact same thing as being afraid. Let me say that again, because it is so important. In your body, being excited is the exact same thing as being afraid. Your body doesn't know the damn difference. Your heart races, your armpits sweat, you're like, you may get tight in your throat. Your cheeks may get pink like mine do when I get excited. The only difference between excitement and fear is what your brain says. And the problem is, if you have a habit of worrying, guess what you're going to tell yourself is going on? That you're like freaking out. That you're not excited, that something must be wrong. Oh gosh, why would you say something's wrong? Because you got a habit of saying that all the time. Even as I became a speaker for a living, or I'd be on CNN, when I first started doing it, I would be freaking out backstage. But even though, just last week, standing backstage, about to go on, 8,000 people, heart races, armpit sweat, my hands get clammy. I'm not nervous though, not at all. I'm excited. And so I developed this technique, and research out of Harvard, not based on my technique, but something very similar, proves that if you basically, right before you're about to do something, take a test, run a race, public speaking, a business negotiation, ask somebody to marry you, whatever it may be that gets your heart racing, just do this. Go, I'm excited. I'm excited to give that speech. I'm excited to ask him or her. I'm excited to do this race. I'm excited. Because what happens is you give your brain context, so your brain doesn't escalate the stuff going on in your body. Your brain's not worried. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you can combine this with the 5-second rule. So we know how to do worrying. You catch your thoughts drift, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, anchor thought. If you start to feel your heart racing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to awaken the prefrontal cortex, and then start going, I'm really excited to do this. I'm really excited to do this. Another technique that you can use is ask, I think they call it interrogatory questions, where instead of giving yourself a pep talk, say, well, why am I ready to do this? Why am I ready? Because that'll force you to answer the question, which then convinces you. So why am I ready to close this sale? Why am I ready to give this speech? Why am I ready? So those are two strategies that you can use backed by science that are proven to actually make your performance be much better. Now let's take it a step further to anxiety. So anxiety is what happens when the habit of worrying spins out of control. Your body gets really agitated, and then you allow your mind to escalate it into a full-blown panic attack. So for those of you that have not had the pleasure of having a panic attack, let me explain what it's like. So have you ever been in your car and you're driving down the road and you go to change lanes and all of a sudden there's like, oh my God, there's a car right there, right? And you swerve a little bit and then your heart's like, and you may sweat a little bit and you grip the wheel really tight and you're super locked in on the road ahead of you. But then that car pulls away and the near miss scenario passes and your mind starts going, okay, you're all right now.
Right.
You're all right now. That's it. That's all. That's what a panic attack is, only it happens while you're standing in front of your coffee pot. Seriously, you have that same, oh my God, way behind! And your heart's racing, and the problem for your brain is that your brain can't look around and say, holy cow, we almost got hit by a car.
Right.
Your brain's saying, what the hell is wrong with her? She's making coffee and she's freaking out. And so now your brain has a problem, because what's your brain's job? It's designed to protect you. So your brain will now do whatever it can to magnify the problem. Remember, we talked about the spotlight effect. It'll start telling you all kinds of crazy stuff because it can't figure out contextually what the hell's going on. She's just making coffee. Now her heart is racing and she's breathing really. Holy cow, maybe she is having a heart attack. A lot of people that have panic attacks say, I think I'm dying. Oh my God, what's happening? Wow. Or you'll see them do the deer in the headlights thing where they got to get out of the room. That is the spotlight effect in your brain, now taking control and magnifying everything to get you out of whatever it was. So here's how you use the 5-second rule. You use it to stabilize your thoughts before the panic escalates. And then what happens is it drifts into worry and then it disappears.
Right.
So the second you feel worry, you catch it, you train yourself to do that. If you start feeling yourself getting, your heart racing, you can 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and use the I'm excited. If that doesn't work, literally 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just give yourself an anchor thought, literally, of you being okay. So let's talk a little bit about confidence, okay? First of all, I've already said it's a skill. It doesn't matter if you were born the most insecure, thumb-sucking, abused, pathetic soul of a human being. You can build the skill of confidence. It doesn't matter if you came out of the womb super ego-driven and larger than life and confident and all that stuff. You still have a lot of work to do when it comes to confidence, authentic confidence. So let me talk to you about what is the skill of confidence. Okay, you ready? My definition of confidence is not belief in self. What you're going to learn about Mel Robbins is that I love evidence-based advice because I'm kind of skeptical. I was trained as a lawyer. Life has kicked me around a little bit. I kind of cross my eyes at people that are very kind of motivational. And, I'm like, well, it's easy to do the inspirational stuff, but what's the depth, right? What's the depth? And so when I think about confidence and my definition of confidence, I looked at the research on confidence, okay? And there's really good news here. The first thing you've already learned, it's a skill. The second thing that you are going to learn that's really good is it's very simple to build the skill of confidence. And you can do it through repetitive actions every day, very simple little things that will slowly build up the reservoir of confidence. And here's the definition I want to give you of confidence. Confidence is the willingness to try. That's it. I'm going to say it again. Confidence is the willingness to try. That's it. That's all that it is. And the reason why I like this definition is because this definition that I have created for confidence, which is the willingness to try, is based in the research around confidence. So if you want to learn more about this, Google confidence competency loop. Okay. I'm going to show it to you. I'm hoping that this is not broadcasting backwards. Okay. This is my fancy little graphic. Okay. This is what we call a confidence competency loop. I did not invent this. This is something that people who research confidence for a living have created. And I've highlighted this because this is where confidence begins. It begins with the willingness to try, because I'm going to show you what ends up happening if you're the kind of person who trains yourself. Notice the words I'm using, trains. We're not going to sit around and wait for motivation. We're not going to wait for courage. We're going to manufacture those things. And this is where the 5-second rule is so transformative. Now, for those of you that don't know it, I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining it. I'm going to give you the shortcut. It's just a simple brain hack backed by tremendous evidence that I created at the worst moment of my life that turns out to have extraordinary science behind it. All you do is in a moment where you feel doubt, insecurity, fear, anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, PTSD, OCD, anything that you might possibly have that would rise up to block you, you simply count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And you got to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what that will do is it will shift gears in your mind. Instead of being stuck here in the part of the brain that keeps you stuck worrying and thinking and having a bias towards overthinking and being a perfectionist, you're going to go 1, 4, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're going to try. Now, this is what's going to happen. The first time you try, you will fail. That's really good news. You want to know why? You learn by failing. You learn by failing. Do you realize that's how you've always learned? That when you were a kid, you don't remember this, but when you were learning to walk, you fell an average of 17 times an hour. You actually learned to walk by falling. And so you learn everything when you fail. Because when you fail, as much as you may think you're going to die, if you stand on a stage, I see a lot of you who want to be coaches or speakers or whatever. You're going to have to learn how to give a speech where you stutter and where your mouth gets really dry and pasty and where you get a neck rash and where you forget what you're supposed to say. You got to do all that stuff. Why? Because when you fail, you don't die. You actually gain knowledge and experience. And that's the gift of failure, because you then take that knowledge and that experience and you go right back to the next time. And then you try again. But this time when you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 try, you're going to take your knowledge and experience with you and you're going to fail a little bit less. And what you're going to learn there, you're going to take right back to the next time that you try. And every time that you fail, you're gaining knowledge and experience. And you take that to the next time that you try. And you're going to go like this, and you're going to go like this, and you're going to keep going and going and going and going and going. And every time you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you push yourself to try, you gain a little bit of competency for the next time you're going to do it. And every time you gain a little bit of competency, your mastery goes up. And that's when you start to feel more self-assured. And that muscle, everybody, of trying, that is where you build the skill of confidence, which is the willingness to not be so damn serious and hung up on being perfect and being worried about looking stupid. And instead, you're willing to lean in and try something. And what ends up happening, because so many people have a definition around confidence, it's about belief in self or self-awareness and all this kind of stuff. And that's great, but I don't prefer those definitions, because then you're sitting around waiting to feel ready. You're sitting around, and in those moments where you don't believe in yourself, you feel like you don't have a reservoir of confidence to draw on. And it couldn't be further from the truth. You were born with natural intelligence and confidence. How do I know that? I know it because it's part of the design of a human being. Think about what you were like as a child. before the world got their hands on you. You just let whatever you were interested in pull you forward. You would crawl towards or tumble toward anything that you were interested in. You'd try anything. You'd crawl up to a mirror and stick your hands on it and lick the thing you loved yourself so much. But life got its meaty hands on you and started telling you no. Do you know the average kid hears some version of the word no, some redirection almost 400 times a day? So you became cautious. You started holding yourself back. You started thinking before you tried things. You started worrying about feelings. This is where it all begins. But you were born knowing how to do this. And the other reason why I know this is true is because you wouldn't know what it felt like. You wouldn't miss it if you hadn't once felt it. You wouldn't know any different. So I want you to know it's in you. And we got to just remove the block that life put in place and teach you that even in those moments where you doubt yourself, even in those moments where you're afraid, even in those moments where you're insecure, you can try. And it's in the skill of trying that you gain the competency, the knowledge, and the expertise that helps you become better and better and better. Because here's the trick. The more experienced you become in something and the more you master it, the less stressed out and anxious and worried you are about doing it. That's how that sort of belief in self comes. The belief doesn't come first. It's a byproduct of you pushing yourself to try. So let me unpack some other things that I wanted to talk about quickly before we get into the Q&A. I promised to talk about self-doubt. And I want to talk about the difference between self-doubt, which is one block, and people-pleasing. I should probably share with you sort of this whole story about the way that I think about blocks. Okay. So, again, I'm working on this book about this. And the other day, this was this fall, I went out to Los Angeles to move my daughter into her off-campus apartment. And she's got this huge kind of laundry room in the basement. Have you ever been in a laundry room, like in a commercial space where they've got all the lines of dryers? And so I was washing her sheets like, moms and dads do when they move their kids into their off-campus apartments. And it was the final load of the day. I go downstairs to the basement and I open up the dryer and I'm like, that's funny. The sheets aren't dry yet. And so I put in a bunch more quarters. I hit the button. I leave. I go out the door and I hear, and I'm like, that can't be my dryer. What? So I go back and the 30 minutes is still on the dryer. And I'm like, that's weird. So I open it up. They're damp and it smells kind of like hot metal. And I see the filter and I think, oh, I wonder if the filter's jammed. You know how like a dryer doesn't really work when the filter is filled? So I try to open it and this sucker is really jammed. So luckily 2 guys walk in with a basket of laundry and I get one of them to help me. And it's so jammed. He has to put his foot up on the thing and yank it out. And when he yanks it out, literally it was like a lint carnival. I don't think any one of the kids that live in that building had ever pulled that freaking filter out of that dryer. There was a disgusting stack of lint, like this freaking big, you guys. It was like gray and blue and black and red. And it was like artifacts. It was like an archaeologist of laundry lint. I'm like, it's disgusting. So I pull that thing off and then the janitor walks in. And he's like, these damn kids. And this is going to start a fire. And so we clean it off and he puts the filter back in and he turns to me and he says, lint builds up. It's little, but it builds up and it blocks the flow of air. And, it gets so hot in that dryer, the whole place could burn down. I seen it happen. And then he goes, but now that it's clear, the dryer can do what it's designed to do. And it gave me the biggest aha. And this is what I'm writing this book about. There is a filter in your mind called the RAS. It's called the Reticular Activity System. I like to call it the red Acura spotter because the way that this filter works, think about it. It's like a giant hairnet on your head. Okay. The way that this filter works is that it blocks out things that it thinks is not important to you. And it only lets in like 1% of what's going on in the world. And here's the interesting thing. It can be programmed. It's very nimble. If you've ever gone out to buy a car, have you ever noticed that all of a sudden you go into the dealership, you're like, oh, I like that red Acura. And then the next day, what do you see everywhere? You see red Acuras. Because your RAS, the hairnet on your brain, the filter that influences absolutely everything that you think and do. By you going to shop for a car, it has gone, oh, ding, 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 hold on. Mel Robbins is interested in red Acuras. Let them in. Let the red Acuras in. And all of a sudden, every red Acura is now getting in through the hairnet in your brain. Okay? So this is good news, because if you decide that dream that is meant for you is something that you want, you can program that sucker to let in information that is related to it. And suddenly it becomes so easy to spot opportunities and easy to gain momentum and easy to try. Here's the problem. You ready? Your freaking filter is trapped with mental lint. That's right. You want to know what lint stands for? Because I'm a freaking genius. Lint stands for those moments when you lose inspiration due to negative thoughts. Thank you, everybody. I know I'm a genius. You can read all about it this fall. So you've got a filter that could help you make everything happen. But you want to know what? You've got this layer of crap in your brain, just like that dryer vent had a layer of lint in it because nobody had changed the filter. You cannot do a load of laundry, people, without creating lint. And you cannot go through a day in your life without having some sort of negative mental lint build up. You have a lifetime of lint that is clogging the filter in your brain. I know it. I can teach you how to remove it, and it's impacting your willingness to try. And the two forms of lint, there are 5 of them, but I'm going to talk about 2 of them right now. The first one is doubt. And doubt is the kind of moment when you lose inspiration due to the negative thought, it'll never happen for me. You want to know why Mel Robbins has never done a live event? Ever. I've never done any kind of live event on my own. You want to know why? Because I've got negative crap built up from childhood that makes me say, no one will show up. True story. Tell me if you've been to an event in a stadium that I have produced. You haven't, right? Because I too have lint in there. And here's the great thing. Just like that dryer, when you realize you have a filter that needs to be checked and you've got a filter in your mind that needs to be cleaned every day, once you spot the lint, it's easy to go, oh my God, look at that bullshit. Get that out of here. Come on, Mel, please. Once you clear away the doubt, it will never happen for me. You can go, oh, look at that stupid lint. There it is again. It'll never happen for me. I don't think so. Wipe that stuff away. Now you can use the definition of confidence. I'm willing to try. Whether it happens or not is irrelevant. I got to be willing to try. The high 5 habit is no different. Okay. So I find myself last year at a very low moment. I am standing in my bathroom. It's a moment I know every woman can relate to. There in my underwear. I'm looking in the mirror. And of course, I am picking myself apart. I'm like, I hate how I'm getting really jowly right here. And I don't like how I've got these like big lines that are starting. And then I notice, I've got this like indent right here that I don't like. And I don't like these like kind of marks right here that go this way on my neck. I've covered them up with foundation. And then this boob hangs lower than the other boob. And I'm just picking myself apart because that's what I've been doing for the past 4 decades. That's what almost all women and even men do it too. This is what I'm finding based on the research of the book. And then as soon as my mind is negative about my appearance, my mind goes negative about my day. Oh, God, I forgot to text Lisa back. I need to finish up that report. Oh, my gosh, my first Zoom meeting is in 9. Oh, the dog needs to be walked. And now I'm going down the road negative about the day. The whole vibe is, ugh. And I don't know what came over me, but I just literally had nothing to say to myself. I really felt overwhelmed, just an average low moment. And I found myself, as pathetic as it sounds, raising my hand and high-fiving my own reflection in the mirror, braless in my underwear. It felt good. I put my shoulders back. I felt a little bit like, okay, I got this. And I went on with my day. The next day, there I am again. And my mind is going negative. And I'm like, nope, high five. And that's what the high five habit is. But this is just the beginning. The high five habit book is full of a bazillion tools. But I want to unpack this one because there's so much science here. And for women in particular, this is unbelievable in how it changes you and your relationship with yourself. So first, let's start with a high five. Think about when in your life you have either given or received high fives. What does a high five from someone else or a high five that you're giving to somebody else communicate?
You're on the same team. You're like in it together.
Yeah. And, it's also like, I think about it, you give it to somebody before a big play. We got this. You give it to somebody when their attitude's going down. Come on, keep going, pick your attitude up. You give it to somebody in celebration. And so a high five communicates support and empowerment and partnership and trust and celebration. And it's so powerful, and we're so good at giving all of those things to other people. Like you and everybody, especially women. We cheer for our friends. We create birthday parties. We buy people presents. We do work for our colleagues when they're overwhelmed. We help our parents out with whatever. We're so good at cheering for our favorite musicians and buying people stuff. We are horrendous at giving that same support and celebration to ourselves. In fact, we not only don't give ourselves support and celebration, we do the opposite. We tear ourselves down, and we beat ourselves up, and we pick ourselves apart. And every single woman I know is constantly saying, how the fuck do I put myself first? How do I love myself? I know I'm supposed to. Well, I'll tell you how you do it. You put yourself first by doing for yourself what you've been doing for everybody else, because that's how everybody else became first in your life. You need to start to cheer for, support, and validate yourself, period. I realize now that I'm high-fiving myself that I have spent the first 40 years of my life either criticizing my reflection or ignoring it. How sad is that?
It's incredibly heartbreaking and yet extremely familiar to me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women.
Yeah. And believe it or not, a lot of men. There's a lot of men that don't want to look themselves in the eye in a mirror and be with themselves because they're so focused on the things that they haven't achieved or the things that they failed at. And so they're ignoring themselves. They're not being with themselves. And so first things first, when you take a moment in the morning to just stand in front of the mirror and be with yourself, and then you raise your hand in a gesture that you have always associated with celebration, support, belief, and empowerment with other people, there's a number of things that happen that can be proven by research. First things first, this is research out of Harvard. It's recent. They've shown in studies that simply taking a minute in the morning to get intentional about who you're going to be today and how you're going to show up changes your productivity. It changes your level of confidence. It changes how impactful you are as a leader at work and in life. So this moment in the mirror is not to be diminished. This is a moment for you to be able to take a moment and intentionally align yourself with who you're going to be. Second piece of research is from a field of study called Neurobics. It basically means when you marry a physical action with something, a thought that's unexpected, you accelerate the development of new neural pathways. And there's famous studies that have proven that if you brush with your non-dominant hand while you're thinking something, it sticks in your mind because you have to focus. Well, the same is true when you raise your hand and high five your own reflection. You see, you've been doing this for your entire lifetime. So there's already subconscious programming here, Lisa. The second that you raise your hand like this, it is so programmed in your mind to associate belief, cheering, empowerment, celebration, with the high five itself, that it's impossible to go, God, I hate my neck. Boy, is that cellulite ugly. You can't do it because this part of the mind immediately takes over and does all the positive stuff with a high five. It's crazy. Try it tomorrow morning. You will not be able to criticize yourself. Now there's another piece of research around this, which is, when you do a high five, we did one, the first one we did, right? We didn't quite hit each other in the right, good smack. So what did we do?
We did it.
Correct. Because a good high five requires you to be present and intentional. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
All of that in a little high five. And so what I started to notice was that I was in real time shifting my relationship to myself. Instead of criticizing the woman I saw in the mirror or ignoring her, I was developing a partnership, a trust, a sense of self-validation. I have my own back. I see you, Mel Robbins. We're going to have a great day today. We got this. No matter what it is that life is going to throw at us, you got this. That's how it all started. And then, of course, I put it on my story after a couple weeks of doing it, and people around the world started to post pictures of themselves doing it, and then all of their stories started rolling in about the difference that it was making. There was one woman that said that she's been struggling with body dysmorphia for 20 years. Cannot look in the mirror. And after 5 days of doing this, can stare at herself in the eyes with a grin.
5 days.
5 days. And the reason why is because of the lifetime association that you have with doing this for other people. So when you try this tomorrow, here's what I want you to do. Stand in front of your bathroom mirror and take a moment and just be with yourself for a second. And then if there's resistance to raising your hand and high-fiving your own reflection, what is that resistance?
The saying about confidence that I've only recently kind of stumbled into as I've been digging into more research around the science of confidence and the skill of confidence. Because a lot of people think that confidence is a personality trait. It's not. It's actually a skill that you build through action. And a lot of people think confidence is a state of belief. It can be, but that's not where it begins. And so I say that confidence is the willingness to try. That's all that it is. Knowing that you may succeed or survive, but you'll still try. And to me, all those people that we admire most, that's what they're doing. They have the ability to tune into those instincts that are true for them. Because the fact is, there's only one you. That's it. And you matter because there's only one you, and there's only ever going to be one you. And your instincts and your experiences and your inner wisdom is a gift to the world. And every time that you tune it out because of the habit of hesitating or the habit of self-doubt or the habit of worrying or the habit of overthinking, you are robbing the world of that gift that you have to give to everybody. And you can use this simple, stupid, silly tool to train yourself to not only hear it, but also to develop the skill of courage to act on it.
Powerful. And is there any area of your life where you feel like you lack courage still?
I'll admit it's kind of easy. I think we all kind of go through those moments where you feel like you're behind. And I think social media is both an incredible tool and it can also be one of those triggers that makes you feel like, look at how many followers this guy has. And I'm like so tiny compared to this guy right here. Like it's easy to use technology and social media not for inspiration, but actually as a way to bash yourself that you're not doing what other people are doing.
Comparison and or whatever.
Yes. And so I think that I use the rule a lot for patience. I notice that my insecurity rises up because right now, look, I did a ridiculous number of speeches last year. I travel way too much. I don't want my life to look like that. It's a champagne problem. I get it.
Yeah.
But but I also have 3 kids in a marriage that I love, and I really feel depleted when I'm not with them. And so I'm practicing patience as I make an intentional pivot in the kind of business that I'm running so that I have more of a life that I want as well. Yeah. So that's one area. You know, I don't feel insecure as much as, you know the term deliberate practice, right? Mm-hmm. And you know the 5-hour rule where...
Deliberate practice, is that from the Talent Code?
Well, the deliberate practice is actually a psychological principle.
I think it was in a book called The Talent Code, but yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a psychological principle that, you know the 10,000 hour rule.
I mean, deliberate practice is in sports.
Yes. So deliberate practice is this idea that, you could do 10,000 hours at anything and become an expert at it, but the way to do it faster is to do deliberate practice, which means you're practicing with the intention of improving, and there's a feedback loop.
Yeah. So you do 2,000 hours as opposed to 10,000.
Correct. Right. Like, for example, if you want to become an expert at guitar, learn scales. Don't just sit there for 10,000 hours and play the same song. Right. If you learn scales, you get the finger dexterity and the muscle memory and the neural pathway development. By the way. Yes, I saw your guitar over there. So hard. I saw your guitar. You know, I always wanted to play guitar, but instead I forced my 3 children to learn.
That's good. You can just enjoy it. You just watch them.
Exactly.
My brother's, the number 1 jazz violinist in the world.
What?
Yeah. And so I grew up watching the most incredible,
Now, is he built like you, too?
He used to be even, more jacked. They used to call him the Incredible Hulk of violin because he was just
wow, snap the thing in half as
he would. He would, slam it like Jimi Hendrix style, yeah. But now he's leaned up a bunch, actually, and so he's incredible. So I used to just be all awestruck by his gifts, and it was unbelievable, his skill. And so I learned guitar. I taught myself when I was 18 just because I was like, I have to know something, in terms of music. Cool. I can barely, I'm like a hack, but at least I can do something. Yeah. So yeah.
So I'm kind of in this mode of improving myself, and I'll give you one more thing that I'm working on. So I kind of think about my life and my work in 3 buckets. So we got this bucket here, we got this bucket, and we got this bucket. And so when you think about your business, or you think about your passion, or you think about work, I think about, okay, what do I need to do in terms of how much time and what actions do I need to take in order to develop the skills so that I can perform the work? Mm-hmm. So there's the deliberate practice that goes into practicing your skill and your
mastery.
And your competency mastery, so that when it comes time to actually deliver the work, whether that's selling or standing on a stage or writing a book or talking to people or selling real estate or whatever it is that may be your passion, deliver. This is the one I neglected last year. This bucket is, what are you doing to personally develop yourself so that you are the most capable, fulfilled, and satisfied human being, so that when you show up to do your competency and your skills and the delivery, that you as the human being are able to do that.
Yeah.
And so I've been spending a lot more time consuming content, reading books, watching, your incredible show, and learning from other people. And I think that one of the traps that we entrepreneurs get into is I was feeling last year anyway, like I was on a treadmill, and when I wasn't looking, somebody was coming by and turning up the speed.
Sure.
And I was only in this alley.
And increasing the hills,
yes. Yes. And so, and if you're my age, you need like a diaper when somebody does that. You're on a treadmill and a leash to keep you attached to it. Exactly. So I've been focusing a lot on this, and it's been interesting because you and I were talking earlier too about you going to India and some of the stuff that you learned in terms of the different states to be in. And I use one where I pay attention to where I'm feeling depleted versus where I'm energized. And here's the thing. You can be doing things that are really hard that energize you. You can be doing things that are really scary that energize you. The same is true with things that deplete you. There are things in your life that are really easy for you. There are people that you hang out with, by the way, that you've been hanging out with for years, but they deplete you. And so I've been starting to become more deliberate about how I distance myself from things that deplete me, and how I spend more time and energy either doing or pushing myself to do those things that actually energize me. And this gets back to your message around passion, right? And that, the art and the skill of building a life that is guided by the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I haven't lost anybody that I love. So I would not say what I'm about to say if somebody that I loved had died in this pandemic. But I have found the great pause that the last 2 months have forced me to take to be the greatest gift that I have received in the last decade. My kids have been home. I have been off the road. I have been forced to slow down. I have been reminded of what actually matters: your health, your family, your friends, what you're doing to take care of your mind and your body and your spirit, and making sure that you do something with the time that you have that you really, really enjoy. And the other thing that it's really made me stop and think about is making sure that I'm having fun, that my whole life isn't just work. And it's made me really start to think about the fact that I don't want to go back to the life that I was living before the pandemic hit. How many of you feel that way? That this has been a gigantic mental perspective switch reset button that has, boom, hit you really hard. I want to know in the comments, what is it that you, with this new perspective that the pandemic has given you, what is it that you want to change in your life coming out of this? I want to start seeing. I see people saying this has been a wake-up call. I see people saying, yes, this has been a huge shift in my perspective. I see Brianna saying, I want to travel less for work. What do you want? Kelly says she's had a mental switch. Kelly, what has this pandemic given you in terms of the gift? Heather's saying, I want to ask myself, what do I really want to do? Kim says, I don't want to go back to the rat race. Brock says, I want to start the year excited about it. I see somebody saying, Larissa says a new business. Megan says, I want more boundaries. Tara says, I want to have more fun. What is it that you want to change given the gift that this pandemic has given you in terms of shifting your perspective? Dinky says, value my friends and family. Jilla says, take care of my mental health. Spend more time with family. What do you want to change, everybody? Seriously, what do you want to change about your life? Is it a relationship? Is it that you have had the time to take care of yourself in small ways and that's giving you greater control in your life? Do you want to change your job coming out of this? Do you want to launch a business coming out of this? Do you want to change your timeline for achieving your goals? Is there some project that you want to take on? Because what you're going to hear me say over and over again is that the single most important project you could ever work on is yourself. And the greatest gift that any challenge will ever give you is a perspective shift and the realization that you can face hard things, that you can survive hard things, and that in learning more deeply about yourself and about what you value through the challenges in life, you are going to be handed a moment where you can make a decision. You hear me say all the time, you're one decision away from a different life. Changing your life does not take motivation. Motivation is garbage. Changing your life takes discipline. The discipline to make a decision to change. You see, you need 3 things if you want to come out of this pandemic and truly change your life for the better. So many of you do not want to go back to the life that you were living. You see something greater for you. And what you're going to need in order to make that shift is you need clarity. You need the clarity to write the change down. And I want you to start right now. What in the comments? Let's get really clear. Terry wants to come out of this a healthier and better person. What is the clarity? Tell me the change that you want to make coming out of this. You got to have the clarity to write it down. That's number one. The second thing that you got to have in order to make a change happen is you've got to learn the skill of confidence, which is the ability to try something when you don't feel ready. You may not know how to do this change. I see advocate for myself. I see more physical movement. I see I want to change my job. I want to start a business. I want to earn more money. I want to travel less. I want my work to have meaning. I want to get out of an abusive relationship. I want to help people in need. I want to make sure that I continue to keep the promises that I've been keeping, getting up on time, working out every day, working on my relationship. This is fantastic because you're having a moment of clarity. And when you start to write it down, you are starting to develop the confidence and the knowing that you deserve to have this change happen. And then finally, what do you need in order to really change your life? Because it's not motivation, everybody, it's discipline. Discipline to make small promises, keep small promises, discipline to take small actions when you feel afraid, the discipline to find the courage to push yourself forward when you don't know how. That's how you change your life. Just those three things: clarity, confidence, courage. That's all you need. And that's why you got me in your life, because I'm here to push you. I'm here to encourage you. And I love seeing what you want to change. That, oh, I see you need help building confidence. No problem. I got you covered. Because confidence isn't something that you feel. Confidence is a skill. Confidence is the willingness to try. Because it's through the act of trying, through the act of simply writing down what's the change that you want to make right there in the comments. Just writing it down and trying it out, trying out writing what that feels like, that's going to show you that you have the ability to start to express the things that you want. And that's the first step, to claim these things that you think about. So for those of you, more than 100 of you, who have written to me in the last week and who have said, I've had a huge perspective shift thanks to this pandemic. And there are some major changes I want to make in my life. I want to start a women's group. I want to end this relationship that I'm in. I want to stop bashing myself all the time. I want to launch that business I've been talking about. All of the things that you've put on hold. Now is the time to change. So many of you asked me, is it the right time to change your job after a pandemic like this? Absolutely. Because if you don't hear the clarity that's inside you, if you don't quiet the noise and tune in to hear, if your instincts, if your wisdom, if your knowing, if inside of you, you hear yourself saying, I got to get a new job. I got to get out of this relationship. I don't want to live where I live anymore. I want to be near the water. I want to be in the mountains. I want to be out of the city. You have to tune into that stuff. And then it's about confidence and courage to take action. That's it. This is a great story about a bunch of topics. It's a story about confidence. It's a story about being comfortable in your own skin. It's a story about being yourself, no matter where you are or what you're doing. And it's a story about the power of your unique self-expression. And your unique self-expression comes out and is amplified when you feel comfortable in your own skin. I got into the speaking business, 6 or 7 years ago. I had a TEDx talk that went crazy viral. That's what started the speaking business. And when I first got into the speaking business, I was really intimidated because I was new to it. And I wanted to do a very good job and I wanted to fit in. So I looked around at what all the top people in the industry of motivational speaking and speaking on the corporate circuit were doing. And I noticed that all the women were dressed in heels, wearing pencil skirts or beautiful dresses, the kind of thing that you might see a news anchor wearing, like a nice dress, heels. So I just wore what everybody else was wearing. Didn't even occur to me to wear something else, because here I am trying to break into a new industry. So I look at everybody at the top, I copy what they're doing, and I am not comfortable in high heels. Yes, if my husband Chris and I are going out on date night, I can rock them like the best of them. But walking through a convention center in them, standing on a stage for an hour in a pair of heels while you're trying to hold in your stomach because you're being broadcast on a big screen and you're wearing a dress, like, it was the least comfortable outfit I could possibly wear. Very self-conscious in it. I'm not that graceful in a pair of heels, so I sort of like poof, poof, poof on a stage. But that's what I did for the first couple of years. So I was in Miami. This must have been probably 5 years ago. I was in Miami, and I had just gotten off stage, take off the heels, take off the dress, put on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. I got like an hour to kill before I have to leave for the airport. I'm going to fly to Vegas because I've got a speech in Vegas the next morning. So I'm walking down Collins Ave in South Beach in Miami, and I walk past this store. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. I loved this store. And there in the window were the most amazing high-top sneakers I had ever seen in my entire life. I was like a moth to the flame. Let me show you these bad boys, because these are the originals. This right here. Notice the gold, shimmery sparkle and the confident blaze orange. I didn't own anything like this. I'd never seen anything like this. I immediately thought, whoa, this, I bet, is what like a Justin Bieber kind of wears. I mean, these are insanely cool. I went inside and they were pretty expensive. I'd never spent that kind of money. I wasn't a sneakerhead yet, but I thought, hey, I spend that kind of money on a pair of nice heels, so why not treat myself to a pair of sneakers, okay? So I get back to the hotel, I pack up, I hop the flight, I get to Vegas. Now, I wake up the next morning and I have a tech check, which is where you rehearse the speech and go through like all the technology rehearsals before the event starting. My tech check is at 7:30. The doors to the event open at 8, and I'm on stage at 8:30. And I had a red dress, my heels, or so I thought. So I crack open, that's what I was planning on wearing. I crack open the suitcase. There are no heels. I have left the heels in the hotel room back in Miami. All I have are the Birkenstocks that I wore on the plane and I wore out in Vegas last night, and my new Justin Bieber high-top sneakers. And I have exactly 15 minutes to get to the tech rehearsal, and nothing else is open. So, Birkenstocks, Justin Bieber, I think we'll go with the Justin Bieber sparkly high tops. I slapped those puppies on. I walked from my hotel room all the way through the casino floor, past all the restaurants and the shops, to the convention center, which you know is like a 2-mile walk. I was so happy to be not only in my red dress, but more importantly, in my Justin Bieber sneakers, because it was super comfortable to walk there that way. I get to the backstage area, and for the first time in 2 years, something happened. And let me tell you what happened. One of the guys that was on the production crew turned and goes, cool sneakers. That was like the first time somebody in production had really acknowledged me for something other than the job in 2 years. So I was like, And as I started walking toward the backstage area, everybody I passed, cool kicks. Oh, those are cool. Oh, those are cool. And I'm like, this is wild. Nobody's ever complimented on my, like, this is, people are, and so I did the tech rehearsal, and then this was the moment of truth. When I walked out onto that stage, it was at the MGM Arena, and there were like 5,000 real estate agents in the audience. I was there to deliver a speech for RE/MAX. It was the first time I'd ever walked on a stage where I actually felt like myself. It was also the first time that I felt the audience kind of lean forward and go, oh, she seems kind of cool. But when you walk onto a stage in heels and a dress, you're like the authority, and you're on a stage and you're talking at people. There's something about walking onto a stage or walking through life and having something fun that you're wearing that makes you relatable and interesting and real. And from that moment forward, I have never not worn sparkly sneakers for work. I wore them every day on my daytime talk show. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I probably have 20 pairs of these. I love, this is my favorite, these are my favorite, well, these are my favorite because these are the originals, but I would say these are my second favorite because I like the low top and I love the blue. I love these, which have a big silver kind of thing. These are super comfortable. And I've got a bunch of these, and these did not even come with sparkles, so I literally bought Swarovski crystals or whatever the hell they're called and got a glue gun out and put them on myself. If you're looking for sparkly sneakers, there's all kinds of them out there these days. It's the coolest thing in the world. Bedazzled sneakers are a thing. Whether you go to DSW or Nordstrom's or Zappos or anywhere, you can find them. And so the moral of the story, the secret to confidence is being comfortable in your own skin. And the secret to being relatable and likable is being yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. And so whatever it is that gives you a little flair, whether it's a little pin on your jacket or a little flower in your pocket or sparkles on your sneakers or cool specs, you gotta find the confidence to bring that to the way that you go through life, because there's something unique about you. And when you settle into what is really an expression for you, you feel comfortable in your own skin. And that's the greatest feeling in the world. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.